Germany, a country of over 84 million people, has long stood as one of the pillars of global economic power. Its reputation as an industrial leader with robust social welfare systems and a high standard of living has often made it a symbol of prosperity and modernity. Historically, it has also been viewed as one of the happiest nations in the world. However, this image has been changing. The World Happiness Report in 2024 marked a steep drop for Germany as it fell from 16th place in the previous ranking to 24th. Particularly troubling is the growing dissatisfaction among the country's youth, raising serious concerns about the direction the country is heading. One of the most pressing and divisive issues currently facing Germany is immigration. Since the refugee crisis of 2015 and 2016, during which the country welcomed over 1 million migrants, Germany has continued to be a key destination for people fleeing conflict, poverty, and instability. In 2023 alone, around 350,000 new immigrants were granted residency, pushing the percentage of foreign-born residents to record highs. Yet, as of 2025, the country has begun to pivot sharply, moving away from its previous openness and embracing much stricter immigration measures. What was once seen as a humanitarian response has evolved into what many now describe as a crackdown or even a war on immigration. This shift has been dramatic and has sent ripples through the political landscape of Europe. Germany has begun rejecting more asylum applications, reinforcing border controls, and increasing the presence of police at checkpoints to perform what are known as pushbacks, turning away migrants at the border. These new measures raise serious ethical and legal questions, especially in the context of international asylum laws. While critics argue these steps violate Germany's commitments to refugee protection, proponents claim they are necessary responses to increasing migration pressures and national security concerns. Leading this policy shift is Germany's new chancellor, Friedrich Merz, who has defended the government's intensified border efforts. In one notable case, 4 foreigners were ordered deported for their involvement in pro-Palestinian demonstrations, a move seen by some as part of the broader clampdown. One rejected asylum seeker, Ahmed, decided to leave Germany for the United Kingdom after facing deportation to Iraq, underscoring the increasingly inhospitable environment for those without legal status. Germany's relationship with immigration is deeply rooted in its modern history. After World War II, the country was devastated. Cities lay in ruins, millions were displaced, and the population was decimated. To rebuild, West Germany initiated the Gastarbeiter, or guest worker program, in the 1950s and 1960s. This program brought in laborers primarily from southern European countries and later from Turkey. At first, Italian workers were predominant, followed by those from Spain, Portugal, Greece, and Yugoslavia. Turkish workers, especially from rural areas, soon became the largest group. These guest workers played a crucial role in rebuilding Germany during its post-war economic miracle. Many chose to remain after their contracts ended, contributing not only economically but also enriching German society with their cultures and traditions. Over the decades, migrants continued to be an essential part of Germany's economic engine. They filled critical labor gaps in healthcare, manufacturing, and service industries, and increasingly became small business owners and community leaders. Today, nearly 18% of Germany's population has a migration background. Culturally, their influence is evident in food, festivals, and the multilingual, multicultural fabric of everyday life. For much of its post-war history, Germany maintained relatively open migration policies, particularly during times of economic boom. Legal frameworks supporting family reunification and integration emphasize the country's long-standing belief in the benefits of migration. However, this openness began to falter in the aftermath of the 2015 refugee crisis. The influx of over 1 million people within a short period put significant strain on Germany's infrastructure and social systems. What began as a humanitarian effort quickly evolved into a national challenge. Public resources were stretched thin, and integration proved more complicated than expected. As public concern grew, so did the political ramifications. Right-wing parties, which had previously played a fringe role in German politics, began gaining ground by capitalizing on fears around immigration and social cohesion. Even before 2015, Germany had become a top destination for immigrants, drawing over 1 million newcomers annually since 2013. By 2023, the country's population had reached over 84 million, with approximately 300,000 new residents that year alone. Yet this growth coincided with growing unease. The German Federal Police reported a 33% increase in illegal border crossings in 2023, with the majority of entrants coming from Syria, Turkey, and Afghanistan. In total, 1.2 million asylum applications were filed in Germany during the 2015 to 2016 period, a staggering number for any nation to absorb in such a short time. In the early days of the refugee influx, many Germans welcomed the newcomers, with scenes of citizens handing out sweets to arrivals at train stations becoming symbolic of the country's open-armed approach. But a decade later, sentiment has cooled. In cities like Oberhausen, the demographic transformation is apparent. In 2010, about 22% of residents there had an immigrant background. By 2023, that number had risen to 37%. Across the country, the immigrant population rose from 16.9 million in 2023 to 17.4 million in 2024. As these numbers have grown, so too have social tensions. Crime statistics have become a flashpoint in public debate. In 2023, crime rose by 5.5% compared to the previous year, with a 7.3% increase in the number of suspects. Foreign nationals accounted for 41% of these suspects, a 17.8% jump. Particularly concerning to many were reports that asylum seekers, who make up just 2.5% of the population, were involved in 13.1% of sexual assault cases. The government's own surveys show a growing sense of insecurity among citizens, with 40% saying they feel unsafe in public, nearly double the percentage from 2017. A 2024 report emphasized the psychological toll of migration pressures, extremist threats, and geopolitical tensions, including the ongoing wars in Ukraine and the Middle East. This fear and unease have further hardened public attitudes. Many Germans now view immigration as not just an economic or social issue, but a security risk. The surge in crime reports, whether directly linked to migrants or not, has reinforced a sense of crisis. This changing mood has emboldened political leaders to take more aggressive actions. Some segments of the population, in frustration or anger, have turned to violence. Berlin authorities reported a marked increase in attacks on migrants in refugee housing in 2024, including 8 attacks on asylum accommodations and over 70 assaults on migrants. This rise in anti-immigrant violence is a troubling indicator of deepening divisions within German society. To address these concerns, the German government has rolled out a suite of new measures. Among the most significant was the repeal of a 2015 regulation that had previously allowed undocumented third-country nationals to enter. In May 2025, Interior Minister Alexander Doent declared that although Germany would not close its borders, stricter controls would be enforced. Border police were ordered to turn away undocumented entrants, even some who might have previously been granted asylum. An additional 3,000 federal police officers were deployed, with plans to double border patrol units and expand mobile control teams. While exceptions are being made for vulnerable groups such as children and pregnant women, the general message is clear. Germany is no longer the open door it once was. Public opinion appears to support these changes. A poll conducted by YouGov in May 2025 found that 75% of German voters supported the new regulations, with 50% fully endorsing them and another 25% somewhat in agreement. Only 16% opposed the policy. The shift in public mood reflects a wider European trend, where several neighboring countries, Austria, Hungary, and Poland among them, have also embraced more hardline immigration strategies. These nations cite similar concerns: national sovereignty, security, and economic stability. Germany's new stance is both a response to and an influence on broader European policy. Other countries are now watching closely, evaluating whether Germany's toughened approach can serve as a model or a warning. At the EU level, pressure is growing to reform migration policy, partly because of the political success of far-right parties that have gained ground by promising to curb immigration. While it remains too early to measure the full impact of these new policies, their implications are already reverberating through Europe. Germany, once a leader in refugee resettlement and migrant integration, is now navigating a difficult balancing act between upholding humanitarian commitments and addressing the anxieties of its own citizens. The effectiveness of the new measures, both in terms of reducing migration and restoring social stability, will take time to assess. But what's clear is that Germany's shift marks a significant departure from its post-war legacy of openness. As this once welcoming nation turns toward a more security-focused approach, it faces an uncertain path. Whether Germany's choices will stabilize the country or deepen its divides remains one of the most critical questions in European politics today.